You're on.
So we're on?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Who wants to do the things to be right every meeting?
If you're on.
I'll already excuse myself.
If you want. I'm asking who would like to.
To be read at every meeting, caveat emptor. Moors are men, upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly in its greatest heights for smelly culprits with their insidious plans to invade such realm. They try and try, but their own bad planning brings down the wrath from their heads like the sword of old Demosthenes. Intrigue and scurrilous cunnings find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by the Prophet Ali, whose latent powers are abundant and unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. Prophet Noble Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. They are the vanguard of the movement as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. All of the Moors are active, not passive. A member's interest can only be in one direction, and having traveled over the road years before the Prophet, knows where every member is along the road. A few feet below is another road where schemers work, where traitors grin, and culprits bask in the sun. They think they're on the same road with true Moors, but the Moors are high above on a pinnacle where they might view the destructionists as they fall for the last time and their bones bleach in the sultry midday sun. Hungry scavengers fly high, catching scent, devour, and leave crying out, caveat emptor, cast out the dead carcass. The Moors high above see these plotters, purveyors, and the worst that exists, hurl themselves downward by their own works as the hawks wait. To be proclaimed at every meeting, Islam. I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth, the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me in the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now since they have found out from the government officials of the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I ever needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without either prophet being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drawing. The members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam, this is the instruction from your prophet Noble Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, and you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on. But the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they're trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag up the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet, ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temple. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims, I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work in their homes or on the streets. We are here for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn their carbon button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Jurali. If the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem the people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Jurali.
Great. Great job. Thank you. So today, we're going to be talking about adverse possession. Does anyone in this room know what adverse possession is?
Can I generalize or?
Yeah, just,
To acquire use of something without having to go through anyone else.
to say that again?
To acquire or obtain the use of something or, a property or anything, without having to go through any due process, I guess.
No, I can't say due process. Without going through, give a name.
Without going through court systems.
Without going through court. Or without going through a real estate agent,
Right.
without dealing with any attorneys. Anyone else? Adverse possession.
To take something back.
To take something back. That's okay, yeah. That's on the lines of reversion.
If a property is abandoned, you could kind of take it within a legal standpoint to become yours. An estate or a property.
So yeah, basically like you said, like Nelly said, adverse possession is normally used for claiming abandoned property. It's very akin to adverse claim. Now, when you study like some of the lectures that Taj Street Bay has done, and he's talking about foreclosures, he often mentions how we don't exercise our right to adverse claim. Meaning the Europeans are claiming that they have interest in our homes, our houses, our estate, and claiming that there's a default and claiming that they're going to collect the collateral to cure the default, which would be the house. Our adverse claim will be saying, no, this is my house.
So
Which is akin to adverse possession, because they're trying to take possession of it, which is really embezzlement of an estate, and you're saying, no, this is mine. So you're basically challenging someone else's claim. You know what I'm saying?
By just saying it's yours?
Yeah, by just saying it's yours. This is mine. And you say, no, it's mine. That was an adverse claim.
Oh, okay, that creates that adverse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, by you saying something contrary to what I'm saying, it's adverse now.
Okay. All right, I understand.
Yeah, it's that simple.
I don't know if you're gonna get into this later,
Go
but
ahead.
the difference between adverse possession and adverse use, again, I looked it up last week.
Adverse possession and adverse use. We'll just,
Are you just using it without claiming it when it's adverse use?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But we can look it up in the law dictionary. On the board, I put, as you can see, well, I'm not sure if the camera can see. But on the left, I put adverse possession. Under that is the rights of indigenous people. Under that is allodial title, which allodial is the adjective to describe the nature of the title. Then I put the phrase chain of title. Then reversion, and then just post limine. On the right, in the middle of that, I have the greater than sign. So the greater than sign is facing, like in school, they kind of taught me like, with the alligator mouth open, that means greater. So pay attention to these things, not the things on the right. So what I have on the right, public housing, Section 8, reservations, mortgage, Indian title, and squatting. And then all of that encompasses Article 22 of the Christian Black Codes of 1724. And then when you read, actually, we'll read it right now. Can you give me my first book, please?
What do you mean in the reservation over there?
Reservations, those are the things that are set aside for Indians. Yeah. If you have my first book, go to the back, towards the back, and depending on which version of my book you have, it'll be around page 150. This is the Christian Black Codes of 1724. The opening of this book, of these codes, says, to regulate relations between slaves and colonists. The Louisiana Codes Noir, or slave codes, based largely on that compiled in 1658 for the French Caribbean colonies, was introduced in 1724 and remained in force until the United States took possession of Louisiana in 1803. The Code's 54 articles regulated the status of slaves and free blacks. So it don't matter if you're free or a slave, because if you claim to be black, it's still someone's property. As well as relations between master and slave. The entire body of law appears below, and it has it enumerated. And these laws are still, in fact, enforced today via the mortgages, the Indian titles, the Section 8 housing, public housing, and the reservations. Article 22 of the Christian Black Codes states, we declare that slaves can have no right to any kind of property, peace, and that all they acquire, peace. I was waiting for it. Everyone sit down.
What's up? Yes, it worked. Oh, I'm glad you made it.
Two.
Stay still.
It's done.
You gotta have one of that flyer,
You
but
might get stuck though.
yeah.
No, it's like-
I've done second challenge.
Buffer.
Ashley, right?
So for like 45 minutes.
Still, let's hear Sitting that tea up the double. Yes. So, right now we're going over the Christian Black Codes of 1724, which are dealing with slaves and other free blacks and how they're going to be regulated. Actually, I'll read a few of these because you can see that they're applicable today. If you're not familiar with this document, please write it down. Christian Black Codes of 1724. These codes are, in fact, still in force today. Number 3 of these codes says, permits the exercise of the Roman Catholic Creed only. Every other mode of worship is prohibited. Now look at the majority of our people. They're proud Christians. Right? Even on the so-called Indian reservation, they got Christian churches there. Right? And then any other religion is condemned by the Christians. Don't touch that book, you're going to go to hell. Christian Black Codes, Article 3. Article 4 says, Negroes placed under the direction or supervision of any other person than a Catholic are liable to be confiscated. Number 5, Sundays and holidays are to be strictly observed. Don't all people go to church religiously? Sometimes almost every day of the week? Christian Black Codes. Number 9, children issued from the marriage of slaves shall follow the condition of their parents. Of their parents force their children to go to church? Yes. Number 10, if the husband be a slave and the wife a free woman, it is our will that their children of whatever sex they shall share the condition of their mother, and be as free as she, notwithstanding the servitude of their father. And if the father be free and the mother a slave, the children shall be slaves. So that's telling you that they're focusing on our mothers. They get the males out of the way to target the women. And in this book, I also talked about a conversation that I had with one of my aunts at her house. She was telling me how back in the day when she was in public housing, the public housing authorities would come check on the quality of life of the projects, and they would look in the closets and under the beds and stuff like that. And my aunt was telling me they were looking for evidence that the male was in the house. So
That's all they do, actually.
yeah. So when you read the Willie Lynch
That's
manual,
what the inspection is for.
yeah, that's exactly what it's for. Nothing else. Not for
They're
the.
still doing that today.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, for living
That's
conditions.
what I'm saying. I'm reading this to prove to the viewers online, and for those who don't know, that this is enforced today. They basically try to make sure that the male's not there. And when you read the Willie Lynch letter that's also in this book, it shows you how they're trying to make our women dependent on the so-called white male master. So they say, and then when Kanye West was talking about how so-called blacks voted Democrat for housing, that's exactly what it was. Make you dependent on them, get the male out of the house, and then you control the nation by doing so. Because the condition of the child reflects the condition of the mother. But if we as men aren't there for our women, then of course they're going to go to the European who's giving them everything that they want and need. Article 12. We forbid slaves to carry offensive weapons. Now, don't they arrest our people left and right for bearing arms, which is a constitutional right, which is showing you that the Constitution don't apply to blacks. An exception is made in favor of those slaves who are sent a hunting or a shooting by their masters and who carry with them a written permission to that effect, which a license is what? Permissions. Number 15. We forbid Negroes to sell any commodities, provisions, or produce of any kind without the written permission of their masters. Now, as soon as our people want to enter into any business, what do they say you need? A license. License is what? Permission.
It becomes a privilege, correct?
Yeah, once you get it from them, yeah. Because they're the issuing authority. So now if you go to someone as an issuing authority, you're saying without this license, I otherwise would not be able to conduct this act. It says without written permission from their masters or without wearing their known marks or badges, and any person purchasing anything from Negroes in violence of this article shall be sentenced to pay a fine of 1,500 livres, whatever that is, some form of payment. So when you go into our people's business establishments, you see, licensed to conduct business in the state of Rhode Island, Christian Black Codes. Then of course, Article 22, which is dealing with the adverse possession, Indian title, and mortgages. We declare that slaves can have no right to any kind of property, and that all that they acquire, either by their own industry or by the liberality of others, or by any other means or title whatever, shall be the full property of their masters. They're saying whether you get a loan or mortgage, or you put in your own finance up for a mortgage, you still don't own it because it's a mortgage, not a title. Then when you read the definition of mortgage in Henry Kimball Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, it will say a mortgage is not recognized as ownership. Then when you read Indian title in Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, it'll say Indian title, not recognized as ownership. Then they got these programs, oh, be a homeowner, get a mortgage. Because we don't know how to read. Right? Continuing, it says, in the children of said slaves, their fathers and mothers, their kindred or other relations, either free or slaves, shall have no pretenses or claim thereto, either through testamentary, dispositions or donations, etc., etc., etc. So they're saying, once this person dies, their children can't inherit it because it ain't theirs, right? Proof of that is probate court. Probate court is the validation of wills. So if I own a house with a mortgage, which I don't own it because I have a mortgage, and I'm trying to give that to my children, and I write in my will, which chances are I'm writing a will and go to the European attorney because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to get a will from them to tell my children what they can get, but I need another man to do it for me, right? Because he's my master. I just don't know it. That will has to be verified by probate. That's what probate is, to see who gets what. And then chances are those heirs, who aren't really heirs because it ain't theirs, are going to be taxed out of house and home. Christian black codes.
Sounds about right.
So when you hear so-called scholars saying that slavery was institutionalized, that's exactly how it was institutionalized. Then they're using things like the 14th Amendment to make us think that since we were born here, we're citizens of the United States. They have our South American family thinking that if they come up here to North America, they think they're in the United States, which this ain't the United States. This is North America. The name of the land is Morocco. They think that, trying to find a better life for their children, peace. They think that if they have a child here, oh, thank God for the 14th Amendment, now that child's going to be a United States citizen and then they're going to receive the benefits, which is false.
Fiction.
They're claiming ownership over that child now. That's what they're doing. They can't give you any citizenship because you can only be state citizens, not citizens of the United States. And then, knowing the issue of diversity, them being Europeans, you can't be citizens of that crap anyway because they're foreigners. So now you got to speak to the Moors, who the land rightfully belongs to. You know what I'm saying? So we're supposed to be teaching our people, don't go to the U.S. citizen crap, come to the temple and get nationalized either through the temple or naturalized through the temple. Because we're the rightful heirs apparent. This ain't their land. We as a people have the authority to naturalize other people trying to come to our country. We have to know that. That's why the prophet said, I'm trying to make my people into better citizens. Citizens of what? Of their own free national government. Well, who's the government? The people. Well, who's the people? The Moors. Well, who are the Moors? The people that think that they're Negro, black, and colored. So what do? Teach them that they're not. And then what? Teach them how to run government. And then what? Maintain that for the prosperity of our children. Or for the benefit of our prosperity. That's literally it. That's why when you hear the things he read at every meeting, he says, we follow the prophet to the destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. That destiny is the administration of our land. Christian black codes. Let's see what else is still in effect. Slaves shall never be parties to civil suits. Hence, you always have to have an attorney to speak for you. Well, not y'all, because I already seen you in court. They didn't speak for you. I already know that. But most of our people who don't know that they're Moors and don't know law, you'll see them in court. Every time they try to open up their mouth, the attorney will tell them, shut up.
Mm-hmm.
They won't say, shut up. They'll say, no, right?
Yeah,
Then the magistrate will say something, and then he'll ask the Moor or the Asiatic or whatever, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you understand? Just to get that out of him or her, to get our people to agree. Everything else gets filtered to the Inquisitionists. And then when you get the book Inquisition, Reign of Fear by Toby Green, I'll say it again. Inquisition, Reign of Fear by Toby Green. This guy will tell you that during the Inquisition, which means to investigate, and then every time these Europeans pull us over or whatever, they're investigating, they're all having an investigation. They're Inquisitionists. The Inquisitionists had a panel of attorneys that they would pick from to represent the people that they were robbing against the Inquisitioners, to stop them from torturing people they left, as an example, they left statues up. And in these statues, they used to put human beings in them and burn them alive in front of people. The people kept revolting, like in Cadiz. So they stopped. But they left the statues up there as a reminder, we will burn you.
Yeah.
To cause fear to people. Which is why every February they show up people being whipped, hung, and lynched. To remind us that they're willing to go to this length to keep us in check.
Allegedly, the bull in Manhattan on, what street that is, man, it's like my big bull.
Yes.
That's one of them.
Yeah. I know that.
Allegedly.
You still have one right there in Salem too, still in Mass.
Those are reminders.
And what do they remind you in October and Salem all the time?
Yeah. That's to keep the fear in our minds. That fear is what controls us.
What was the witch you started with Salem witch trials?
You tell me.
She was a Moor.
Where's you from?
She was in Arawak from South America, and then she got shipped to Barbados, and then she got sent here.
Oh,
So did you go?
March from when I-
Sorry.
Did you go?
Yeah. Did you know that she was?
That's why we say Quisqueya is a model of all languages, many tribes. That's why they still have an anthem over there in American code. They don't say
That's basically it. So, when you see them foreclosing on our people's estates, which is really estate embezzlement, write that down. All foreclosures are estate embezzlements. Oh, the contracts have already been closed. When you sign a contract, that's called closing the contract. So they can't subsequently foreclose on something that has already been closed on. You know what I'm saying? That's dealing with, that principle is dealing with, in the Constitution, it says no ex post facto laws shall be created. You can't do something after the fact. You know what I'm saying? You can't stop me from slapping you after I slapped you. Get it? It's a principle of nature. So all foreclosures are estate embezzlements, which is a federal crime, according to the United States codes. So in any event, if any of our family members or someone we know who's our family member dealing with a crime when when your brother is in adversity, your sister is in adversity, forsake them not, help them. Especially these people claiming to know law, help them. Because if they're foreclosing on one of our people's estate, which is really estate embezzlement, then they're embezzling your estate. Know that. If you don't know it, now you know. If you don't come to the aid of your people or being suppressed, then you are part of the problem. So again, all foreclosures are estate embezzlement. I have a question for all of you. What are all foreclosures?
Closing on houses. Okay.
Now, well, the embezzlement is the unlawful selling or transfer of an estate without the authority to do so. Right? So these Europeans always fail to prove that they're the holder in due course of any original instruments. They can't even prove chain of title. Chain of title is the succession of title, the transfer of the title. So if I'm, the landlord, I'm the owner, this is my estate, I got the original document. Then I transfer it down to my heirs. Then they have the document. Then they transfer it down to their heirs. Now they have the document. That should be recorded. That would be the chain of title, showing who in the family tree became the trustee of that estate for the entire family.
So always ask for the chain of title.
Yes, always ask for the chain of title. Always ask for the chain of title. Remember when we went to City Hall in Pawtucket? Hold on. We went to City Hall in Pawtucket to look at the deed on your estate. As soon as we went in that building, what did the clerk ask for? Are you looking for what? Chain of title. They know exactly what a chain of title is. Now, a deed is not a chain of title. A deed is an action. So don't be confused on that either. A deed simply means act. Like you did a good deed. So a deed of trust is the fact that a trust was created. That's it. A deed of trust is knowledge of crap. So even if they say, well, we have the warranty deed, or we have the deed of trust, that don't mean you own it. You know what I'm saying? For them to own it, they would have to be the holder in due course, meaning the person who had in their possession the original instrument, not a copy, a wet ink signature original instrument. As an example, when they towed your truck, you went to the tow company place, what they asked for? The title.
Yeah.
And they said it had to be the original on. They wasn't playing no copies, were they? Because they wanted to make sure that you were the holder in due course, meaning you're the actual person claiming an interest in the estate that you're trying to get from them. Ask them the same thing.
And I didn't have to show no license either.
No, you didn't, because you're the owner.
I used my nationality card.
Because you're the owner. We need to show them a permission card for if you're the owner.
But if it was registered to them, I would have to have had proof. I'd have to have had a
Proof of
license
insurance,
and
a
all this
license,
type of
registration.
shit, and they would have kept the truck.
And Christian Black
Because I
Belts.
didn't, and I learned this by
The hard way.
Experience.
Yeah, they some people call it the hard way, but if I didn't do it, I wouldn't
Right,
know.
you would, right.
Because of me not registering it is why they weren't able to keep it.
Yep.
Why it's still mine. So once I register it, if I was to register it, it'll then be theirs. Then they can do that, keep it from you until you produce all of this and we'll give it back to you.
Christian Black Codes, 1724. So,
This is crazy.
again, all of them, not some of them, all of foreclosures are estate embezzlements. Every single one. So, in that event, going back to what I said earlier, if your brother and sisters in adversity, forsake them not, help them file a counterclaim in court to challenge these Europeans' claim in your estate.
How do you
Everyone
feel about
comprehend that?
helping your brother? How do you help your brother?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a class action. I mean, essentially it is because you're suing on behalf of an estate, which is a bunch of people and property. So you're suing on their behalf. So technically it is a class action because all of you are supposed to be part of it because it's your estate. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have a bunch of children, they better be interested in you countersuing these Europeans trying to steal what's theirs, or what's going to be used for their benefit, meaning their house, their home, you taking care of them. You know what I'm saying? Remember, the word corporation just means body in action. A family is a body. We're supposed to be organized and moved as one. We're supposed to be a corporation. We're supposed to be a gang. That's what we're supposed to be. Yes.
If you just, let's say, you sue them individually in federal court, that will be on your reference for
Yeah, on the record, for anyone to look up.
And it doesn't have to be a class action, but if you put it in a federal level, so therefore it's now adjudicated upon.
Well, now they have to deal with it.
Is that gonna be like so nationwide or just?
Well, I would like for all the Moors across the nation to countersue these people. Instead of us always having our backs against the ropes and being defendants and being the victims of foreclosure, let me just move this queen and put your king in check.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just make counter moves. Let's be active instead of reactive. You know what I'm saying? So I would like, if we can get a bunch of Moors armed to fight these people, that would be a fun sight to see.
Not armed is,
Armed, like, with knowledge.
yes.
And armed, because you have the right to bear arms. And then, as an example, if you Google a allodial title on Wikipedia, actually, I'll do it right here. If everyone wants to follow along. Slide my magic. All right, don't mind my yellow socks. Google, this is what I did first. I Googled Aboriginal title. I clicked on the Wikipedia link. Then I scrolled down. I clicked on doctrinal overview. Under content, it says Aboriginal title does not constitute allodial title. or radical title in any jurisdiction. Then I clicked on allodial title. Allodial title says, allodial title constitutes ownership of real property, land, buildings, and fixtures that is independent of any superior landlord. Allodial title is related to the concept of land held in allodium, or land ownership by occupancy and defense of that land. Keyword defense of that land. Now in the Quran, when it talks about us coming down to this physical plane, didn't it mention survival of the fittest?
Yeah.
Now isn't it a rule in nature that every single one of us, as a divine human being, has the right to defend ourselves
Yeah.
in any manner we see fit?
That was the first law. Because he said, the ether grew sluggish and man fell from their descent nature, and in Atmos, all food was to feed everything that fell, all of us that fell except the cherubim and the angels who held they held their vibration with
Their will was strong.
Their will was strong. And in Atmos, everyone was to eat from there, so survival of the fittest became the first law.
But now, in this plane of things made manifest, where numbers count, they're going to come to our houses with armed guards. That's what they do.
Part of the Patriot Act.
Right.
Agents,
Now, don't we have the right to defend ourselves?
of course.
I mean, this is our land. Where else are we going to go? I'm not saying cause war. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying defend yourself.
Armed with the mind.
Both Australia and Iraq, this process has worked for them to go to court and both physically defend.
Why not? Because if you don't defend what's yours, you're abandoning it.
Mm.
Right? If I snatch that fez off your head and you don't try to take it back, you just basically let me take it. Same thing with these Europeans. If they say get out, and you get out, you abandon your state.
Sound good.
Is everyone following? All right, so again, all foreclosures, all of them, every single one of them, is state embezzlement. They're claiming an interest in your estate. You sue them or countersue them or bring a claim to court, you're doing a adverse claim to the actual estate. Now, when you see the video that, well, a few videos that we've done online, and the video that Tashreeq Bey did dealing with the quit claim, always claim the longitudinal and latitudinal coordinates of the actual earth, not the name of the street. Because if you claim Smith Street, the Smith family created Smith Street, so you can't claim it's theirs. And then when you go to City Hall, and you go to the old maps department, and you look at their maps, you'll see that on Smith Street was the whole Smith family. Bob Smith, Susan Smith, Bob Smith, you see their whole family name right there. Carol Smith.
That sounds familiar, like birth certificate or a strong claimant that's based on
A fraud, yeah. Yeah. So you can't claim something that's fake. Claim the longitudinal and latitudinal coordinates of the earth, which is easy to do. Go on Google Maps, go to your house, right click on what's here. It'll drop a pin, it'll show you the longitude and latitude, click on that, and it'll show you the degrees, minutes, and seconds. That's where it is. Then when you go on, like, let me get the dictionary in the back. I don't have it here. But in the back of some dictionaries, like the Random House Dictionary, you'll see like a map in the back, and it'll have like a circle around the North Pole, and it'll have lines. All right, so this would be the North Pole, And then this would be like North America, blah, blah, blah. And then it'll have another line. And these lines will be numbered. 41. I don't know off the top of my head, I'm just showing you what it may look like, right? This number may be like, 72 or whatever. And then where these lines meet up, that's 1 point, right? Tracking?
Mm-hmm.
Simple, right?
Mhm.
This is where you get in masonry the compass and the square. And you have the G in the middle, which is 7, which represents geography or geometry. Which in the military, they teach you how to read a map. And they say you read the map right and up, dealing with angles. That's how you can plot your point.
I ain't gonna lie, I did learn that in school at one time.
Yeah. In the military, you have to take land navigation.
I think they fired the teacher right after.
Yeah.
Since I had to change from the school rapidly.
My biology teacher taught me how to do that.
I had an English teacher that taught us how to read between the lines one lesson. Next week he was gone. Gone. I'm like, what's going on with the school?
So again, don't claim things like Smith Street. And don't claim, as an example, that your house is in Providence, Rhode Island, as an example. Here's a map of the colony of Rhode Island, giving the Indian names of locations and the locations of the great events in Indian history with present political divisions. Not geographical divisions, political divisions. By Sidney R. Ryder, Providence, Rhode Island, 1903. You'll see that the name of the land is not Rhode Island, it's actually Narragansett. You know what I'm saying? So if we're going to claim any land here, we're not claiming land in Rhode Island, because Rhode Island is a European colony, not a landmass. Of course.
Your national name.
The land's free national name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's free national name. Which, the reason why the Europeans renamed the land, you're dealing with the 3 prominent issues at law: the status, the jurisdiction, and the venue. Dealing with jurisdiction, you have personam jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, and territorial jurisdiction. So if they ask you where you're from, and you say a European colony, that means you're European property. Just like when they would ask runaway slaves, where are you from? And you say, I'm from Massa so-and-so. Okay, well then you're Massa so-and-so's property. Same thing with the driver's licenses. When they pull you over and say, what's your name, where you from? You got the last name Smith, and you're from the colony of Rhode Island. Well, you belong to the Smith family in the colony of Rhode Island. Go back there. Christian black codes. Following? So now, dealing with the fact that all foreclosures are estate embezzlements, we have the right, we must start countersuing in federal court. That is our claim, right? That would be our adverse claim. Now, in doing so, of course, you can file liens against these other Europeans' property, which is, again, claiming an interest in property until the debt is satisfied.
Okay.
Meaning, I'm going to claim interest in your property since you're claiming interest in my property until this is litigated in court. Which is dealing with the principles of estoppel, which just means stop. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, if you put your pawn in my area in chess, I'm going to do something to stop it. And since pawns can only move forward, I'm going to put another pawn in front of you to stop your pawn from moving forward. You know what I'm saying? If not, for chess. All right. Tracking? Any questions so far?
So when they attack our state,
Yeah.
through the numbers there,
Yeah.
we can do the same to their numbers there. We just have to know about them the way they know about us.
Yeah.
Like whatever corporation's doing their history behind it.
Yeah. Which most of these corporations, if you Google it, you can find out who their CEOs are. And if you're in that, if you may know, if you know where they might work, go to the county records, type their name up, and you can see where they live.
I want to know like all right, so well actually let me
All right, so let's move forward with this. Now, the reason why I went over this is because we need to start defending ourselves when these Europeans do things to us. We can't just go through these traumatic events that these Europeans are putting us in and then only complain about it and not actually do anything.
Okay,
Because then that's just wasting energy and wasting time.
I rephrase my question.
Yeah.
So, would it be wrong to, so you see how they, when we do little things, because the little case that they did with my truck, they put it in the low sun. So for the public to see, kind of the thing.
Yeah,
Would it be wrong for us to put articles in the paper?
No, that's why the prophet said the press is our most powerful weapon.
Okay.
That's why in those
That's
other
what I
affidavits, we
asked
put those
you.
European faces on it so we know what you look like. There you go.
I want to know that if I produce the article for the low sun about them the same way they did to me, I'm not acting in low
No.
sun. I'm just.
No, you're not. You're defending yourself. I think it was Malcolm X who said, if we don't use the same tactics that our enemy is using against us,
Yes.
then we're bound to lose.
So. That's what
We're destined to lose if we don't. And then the Quran, it says, in the Quran itself, of Mecca, that Noble Brotherly told us to read, it says, fight in the name of Allah. Those who fight you, and match them with equal and opposite force.
Islam. You see the press on Monday? Islam.
But in the rights of indigenous people, it says we have the right to our own press. You know what I mean? So in actuality, whenever we go to court, there should be Moors with us with cameras. Oh yeah, we're pressed to record what's happening here. Huh?
They let the cameras in.
Of course they don't, but then we hit them with law. Corpus Juris Secundum, volume 88, subsection 113. Pretty sure. Corpus Juris Secundum, which is the body of law. Juris Secundum. Secundum? Secundum. Secundum. SECUNDUM or OM, something like that.
UM.
Yeah, UM.
Sabir does a lot of talking about this.
Yes, it does. It does. Yeah, Corpus Juris Secundum. It's those blue books in the law library. It's like volume 1 to like volume 110 or something like that. It's a lot. There's thousands of dollars. Oh, volume 88. Sorry. And I'm pretty sure it's subsection 113. It talks about how we have the right to bring cameras in. The only way that a magistrate can say we can't is if it's interfering with court procedure. Other than that, you have the right to do so.
So how can, if they say there's interrupting the court procedure?
They don't have to prove it. As an example, because remember, the accuser bears the burden of proof. That's not just law in court, that's law everywhere. So if I start saying, you robbed me, I'll have to prove it.
We just got our homework for the week.
So if the magistrate says you having a camera in the court is interfering with our proceedings, they would have to give you an explanation why.
Not only explanation, because the explanation is a perception, so it's a fiction. They had to be able to prove a fact.
Oh, yeah.
About,
Yeah.
there you go, to be able to have right jurisdiction.
Yeah. So we have to start countersuing these people instead of just them violating us and then us coming amongst our groups and then complaining and then feeling helpless because we're helpless because we're just complaining instead of filing claims against these people to hold them accountable. Meaning, if you do this to us, this is going to happen, and if you keep doing it, this is going to continue to happen. Not just saying, well, these Europeans aren't honorable, they don't respect anything. But what have you done to prove that they don't respect anything? And then prove it on the record. You know what I'm saying? Meaning we can't just complain about what the Europeans are doing to us and not have filed any suits against them without proof that we honestly tried to go to court and sue these people. So then if we do get denied, then we can go to other nations and say, look, we've been trying. And then maybe they'll come to our aid and realize that, oh, these people ain't cowards. Because right now, our people look like some cowards. That's just the honest truth. We'll yell at each other. As soon as the European comes around, we'll be, oh, how you doing, sir? blah, 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 blah. Then we'll pay his taxes and then complain and still pay it. Then we'll call him the devil and still pay his taxes. Then we'll call him the oppressor and still pay his taxes. Then we'll call him the oppressor and still send our children to his school. Then we'll call him the oppressor and then like my dumbass fighting his military. Then we'll call him the oppressor and then like some of our dumbasses serving, on the police force to make a change. Even though every single one of our people who joined the police force to make a change hasn't changed shit. Then we'll call him the oppressor and not teach our children these things so that they know how to defend themselves. So who's the real oppressor?
Islam? Islam.
We'll call the European the oppressor, and then some of these grand sheiks aren't teaching our people this information. So who's the real suppressor or oppressor? All right. So anyway, again, any foreclosure whatsoever, file a claim in federal court. Dealing with the Constitution and treaty, and with the prophet said that they place their trust upon issues formed by their forefathers. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship is that trust that our forefathers entered into with the Europeans, with the aim of keeping peace amongst us and them on this land. As long as we both abide by the treaty and the Constitution. Per that treaty, it says, counsels shall be present in any issues of law or equity, civil or criminal, between any Moor and any citizen of the United States. That's telling you that the venue in which we should be arguing is federal court. Now, Moors always talk to me about how they're fighting in state court, they're fighting in small claims, they're fighting in family court. Wrong jurisdiction. You're wasting your time. Bring all that passion, all that heat, straight to federal court. Bring it straight to them. All that stuff we keep complaining about, bring it to them. You know what I'm saying? Redirect your energy from complaining to your own people to now suing them. The very people that violated you. Sue the crap out of them. Tell them that. That's how I see it. Telling them that. All right, so anyway, now, I want to talk about adverse possession and squatting. Because when I was first learning a lot of this information, you'll hear the Europeans call people squatters, or just people say squat, and that's how you get into a house, you just squat in. There's a clear distinction between squatting and adverse possession. And I want someone to come up here and read the definition of squatting. Anyone. Literally anyone. Squatting or squatter. This is a Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition.
Squatter, one who settles on another's land without legal title or authority.
So, without legal title or authority, so it's illegal to do so. That's why they push it on our people, to then arrest us for it. Continue, please.
A person entering upon lands, comma, not claiming in good faith the right to do so by virtue of any title of his own or by virtue of some agreement.
False. Without good faith, meaning unhonorable. This is why in the Quran, chapter 24, verse 20, excuse me, chapter 24 of the Quran, verse 29, it says, "It is no fault on your part to enter houses not used for living, in which serve some other use for you. And Allah has knowledge of what you reveal and what you conceal." Meaning squatting is unlawful. It's the intent. So Allah knows the intent of what you're entering the house. And then we see adverse possession is putting people on notice, letting people know this is what I'm doing since you abandoned me. That's Allah knowing what you conceal and what you reveal. That's the intent and the knowledge. That's why Moors put their hand over the heart. We're supposed to lead with our heart. Our heart first. Love truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And you have to have the intelligence to do whatever it is you desire to do. Continue, please.
virtue of any title of his own or by virtue of some agreement with another whom he believes to hold the title. On the former laws, one who settles on public lands in order to acquire title to the land, period.
But notice how in the beginning it says illegal or without legal title or authority, meaning illegal. And it says not in good faith, meaning you have bad intentions. Now, adverse possession is defined. So basically say, or write down, squatting is illegal. That's basically the definition of squatting. Illegal. Adverse possession is where our eyes should be focused for our study and review and potential execution. Adverse possession. This is a Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, page 49. It states, adverse possession consists of actual possession with intent to hold solely for possessor to exclusion of others and is denoted by exercise of acts of dominion over land, including making of ordinary use and taking of ordinary profits of which land is susceptible in its present state. Adverse possession consists of actual possession with intent to hold solely for possessor to the exclusion of others and is denoted by exercise of acts of dominion over land, including making of ordinary use and taking of ordinary profits of which land is susceptible in its present state. Right?
I have a question.
Yes.
If it's susceptible in the present state, consider the present state being like for sale. If you make
No, it's talking about it says like as an example, if you see an abandoned storefront,
Okay.
it's susceptible state, it would be a store. So then you fix it up to continue to operate as a store.
Would adverse use be similar to squatting?
I'll look up adverse use.
Just like, are you still letting somebody know about it?
Adverse.
Never heard of that.
I don't see adverse use in here.
I saw it today.
Oh, adverse use. Use without license or permission. An element necessary to acquire title or easement by prescription. To me, sounds like adverse possession to me. Right? So, in adverse possession, you would notify the people who's either claiming ownership of the land or whatever. You know what I'm saying? This is where I instruct Moors, or suggest to Moors, to, if you find an abandoned estate, go to the city hall, ask the tax assessor for information regarding that land, so you can do research on how long it's been abandoned, who's claiming ownership, all of those things. So if you're gonna claim something, you can let them know, this is what I'm doing. Then take that document, file it with the recorder of deeds to prove that in fact you did notify these people. And now it's on the public record. So now anyone else trying to claim interest in that estate, dealing with first come, first served, basically, which there's another phrase for that. You already claimed it.
What was the
On the
last
record. Huh?
Some registry of deeds?
A recorder of deeds.
Recorder.
So in the recorder of deeds, that's where you file your affidavit dealing with the adverse possession to notify the current feudal lords that abandoned it. You know what I'm saying? Right. So now, for those who doubt whether adverse possession is a real thing, or those dirty Moors that will say, if you do that, you're going to end up in Guantanamo Bay because that's illegal and that's unlawful, and we're supposed to be abiding citizens, and the prophet said we're citizens of the United States, so we got to give mortgages and got to go through these real estate, blah, 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 blah. Do research on this case right here.
Tadamo.
State of Rhode Island and Province Plantations, Superior Court. Does that say Jamal's Court? Does that say Moore's Court? Does that say Council
Yeah, I
Court?
think most.
Yeah. Wrong.
False.
False. Bears eat beets. Is that clear on the camera? Feel free to take pictures of this and send it to these dirty Moors. You know we come with the facts, not just opinion around here.
I don't want to see you in the picture.
Why not? Hola. Peace. Welcome. No fast, huh? I see how it is. All right.
Yeah, he's crazy.
This is the Rhode Island Superior Court. Filed July 8th, 2011. 2011. This is old. This is ancient stuff. Case number AC 09968. It is Joyce the Hippo. Of course.
Why not?
Versus Louis Sperling.
The ladies.
Now, since these Europeans are citizens, they go to state level. Again, this was filed in 2011. It was saying ancient knowledge that I had to blow some dust off of and went to the Akashic records and had to offer an offering to the ancestors with a drop of blood to get this. A simple Google search. I'm just going to read the highlighted part. It says, to establish title by adverse possession pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Title 34, Chapter 7, Subsection 1, which they're telling you, adverse possession is recognized by Rhode Island General Laws. So now when more start doing adverse possessions, is it lawful?
Yes.
Say it with your chest.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay.
So this is from Rhode Island General Laws, Title 34, Chapter 7, Subsection 1. Now, as I'm reading this, know the difference between the common law and statutory law. Common law over statutory law. Remember that. Right? So this is what it says. Where any person or persons, corporation, or others from who he, she, or they derive their title, either by themselves, tenants, or lessees, shall have been for the space of 10 years in the uninterrupted, quiet, peaceful, and actual cession and possession of any lands, tenements, or hereditaments for and during that time, claiming the same as his, her, or their proper sole and rightful estate in fee simple, meaning in pay nothing. The actual censing and possession shall be allowed to give and make a good and rightful title to the person or persons, their heirs and assigns forever. and any plaintiff suing for the recovery of such lands may rely upon the possession as conclusive title thereto, and this chapter being pleaded in bar to any action that shall be brought for the lands, tenements, and hereditaments, and the actual cession and possession being duly proved, shall be allowed to be good, valid, and effectual in law for barring the action. Then it says, in order to obtain title under adverse possession in Rhode Island, which Rhode Island is not a landmass, it is necessary to show actual, open, notorious, hostile, continuous, and exclusive use of property under a claim of right at least a period of 10 years. Corrigan versus Nanian. So now, the difference between the statutory law and the common law is adverse possession is the common law. The statutory law is, they're saying, has to be 10 years. That statute don't apply to us. Why? Because we're not citizens of the colony of Rhode Island.
Legislator making exceptions.
Yeah, statutory.
It simply needs to be a
Huh?
It simply needs to be a versus.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's going to-
It simply needs to be abandoned, and if not, when you do your adverse claim, whoever is claiming that they own it, they have to present their counterclaim. And if they're foreigners, do they have standing superior to nationals? And if they don't have the title, is their counterclaim valid? If they don't have chain of title, is their counterclaim valid?
Well said.
Any questions?
So when they come at you, so say someone pops up and tries to contest you, this will be done.
Wait, who's this person? Because remember in law, dealing with the three provinces of that law, which is status, so who is this person popping up?
Okay, let's say it's one of our own.
More or denationalized more?
More.
So it comes.
Right.
Okay.
And that, it does have like, the person does have equal state or claim or whatever, in chain of title, or how do you delegate?
That's when we're supposed to have our own superior courts within our own state level government. So we can litigate, not have Europeans litigate on our claims.
So we're a ways from that too.
We are a way ways from that.
So I can roll past the property that is foreclosed, right? Windows boarded out, nobody's there, right? And you'd be like, oh, that's mine.
Well, do your research on it first. Go to City Hall first.
Mhm.
Do the adverse claim first.
Right.
Send a copy to the Secretary of State first.
Okay.
Get her to stamp it first,
Okay.
so you can prove that you did it. Then, before you do any of that, wake up the Moors around you, so if you get any problems with the Europeans, you have an actual government to protect you.
But even after you do all of that first, when you said you won't really run into a problem because from what I noticed, once you being active causes you to be out there in their faces. Once you do all of that stuff, you would have done so much activity that when you pop up in the house and they do see you,
No one can be like, what?
That we know that girl, leave her alone, because she done been in City Hall so much times. We rather her stay right in the house.
And those steps
Going back
are-
to and they see your face,
Go to the tax
the
assessor.
activity.
See
what
who's the
counts.
current
The
feudal
activity,
lord.
the activity.
See who's claiming ownership of the estate. That's why you're going to the tax assessor. Then you go to the recorder of deeds to see where this person lives, so you can send them mail to let them know that you're about to assert your interest in this estate, and then give them an ample amount of time to rebut your claim. So they might be out of state, they might be on vacation,
10 days?
whatever you see fit.
I think that's
The
fine.
common law courtesy is 10.
All right, 20.
But if an estate is abandoned for like 15 years, then be serious. Then write your affidavit of claim. Write your actual adverse possession. Then that adverse possession, make several copies. File one original copy with the recorder of deeds. So it's on the public record, which Moors are supposed to have their own recorder of deeds, because we're supposed to have our own government. But since Moors want to play games, we don't have it. Well, we do, or our people have to recognize that.
Right.
And recognize that, yes, this is public record, just like their documents are public record, so are ours. So we have to understand the jurisdictional powers that we have within ourselves. Because they're just saying stuff because they said it. And then our people just, well, they said it, so it's law. So how come when we say things, you didn't recognize the same thing? It's the same
What would you
principle.
like to do?
Hold on, let me finish this.
Thank you.
Recorder of deeds.
Sure.
File your thing on the record, so it's public record. Get yourself a certified copy. A recorder of deeds. And yes, just pay the fee because you're going to them. Bigger picture, boys. Let's be serious. Then send said adverse possession to the current feudal lords to let them know. Put them on notice. Hey, I'm doing this. If this is your estate and you have an interest in it, write me back.
Yeah.
If not, well, then you just abandon your claim.
Back
Again,
at 10 days. That one.
do whatever you want.
I know, but the first one I get in 20, so.
Do whatever you want.
Mhm.
Caveat emptor.
Right.
So, then, I suggest personally putting the sheriff on notice as well with the certified copy from the recorder of deeds. Sheriff, chief of police, well, I'm not done. Chief of police, the mayor of said city or town, the secretary of state of said colony, because they're responsible with maintaining all records. The provost marshal, the marshal. Yes,
When they come
and
at,
others.
if they decide to come at you with about, because they like to say the taxes is why the estate are sometimes abandoned. So when they come at you to procure the taxes, how do we go about? I mean, in some cases, the taxes is late, but I get it.
Excuse me, sir. I'm not a citizen of the colony of Rhode Island, so I'm not obligated to pay taxes.
Sure.
If you don't believe me, you can call my grand chief, who's my representative, and speak to him.
Okay. That is exactly.
And then if you want, we can go to City Hall, speak to the councilman and let them know, we're Aboriginal and Indigenous people to this land. What do you mean we have to pay you anything? Because last time I checked, dealing with the rights of Indigenous people, you have to recognize our sovereignty. And what nation of people pays taxes to another nation of people on their own land? Answer that one, and then I'll pay you taxes. And then the answer will be no one. You know what I'm saying?
Would it be wise, or whatever, to just roll up in a small group to whatever sheriff or policy enforcement department and say, hey, just to say like, hey, we're
This is
here
what we're doing.
operating, like for my bus, like, hey, I was just to have this thought today, like, just to go say hi, I'm Aboriginal, new to this parts of town, operating my vehicle. Just letting you know that I'm here. Please don't fuck with me in the future.
But that's how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to be able to go in droves together to City Hall to let them know, so that they can write their own legislation dealing with us. And their legislation will be like, leave the Moors alone.
We also have to be prepared to tell them how to document this. That's how
No, they shouldn't have to document any of us.
No,
It's like, as an example, with the Resolution 75. It talks about how the Moors are theocratic sovereign people. So if they're theocratic and sovereign, that means you have no jurisdiction over them. So that means the mayor's supposed to know to inform their police, don't mess with them. It's diversity of citizenship. You have no jurisdiction over them. That's how it's supposed to work. But this is our responsibility now. Let's not just keep blaming the Europeans. We have to make our organizational, governmental presence known to these people. We have to go to City Hall and say we're demanding an intercourse with the mayor, so we can let them know what's going on, so that subsequently any other violation, now you're responsible. Let's go to court. So now we're leading them. Now we're letting them know we told you. So now if your policy enforcers violate one of our Moors, we're suing you. You think they want that? Because most mayors want to be elected again. You think they want that?
So
So instead of complaining to amongst each other, like these people ain't representing us and these people are mean, why don't we just send them? In an intelligent tone, like the prophet said. Yes.
Oh, so we just like start packing up baskets and say, hey, we're in town, we're your neighbors.
Give
How
them
you
some vegan
doing?
cookies. Hey, here's our ring with these cookies.
That's what I couldn't.
We come in peace.
Let's bring some soap. You know,
Some
they need
soap.
it.
Y'all forgot, but
And
our
some
ancestors. All right, but seriously, that case is showing you that one of the highest courts in Rhode Island recognized adverse possession. This isn't some sovereign citizen crap. This is the law, period. End of sentence. The law, period. Right? So now, continuing with that, I just read in the Quran, chapter 24, verse 29, where it said we have the right to rent in the houses not used for living in, that serve us some other purpose. And if we do it lawfully by following adverse possessions, we can not only claim our national right, which would be the adverse possession, but since this is a divine and national movement, we can also claim religious rights to claim abandoned property, which in our religious text, one of our religious texts, it just said we could, right? Now, additionally, the Rhode Island Constitution, the European Constitution, for their colony, Article 1, Section 3, supports just that. It says freedom of religion. Imagine that. Whereas Almighty God hath created the mind free, and all attempts to influence it by temporal punishments or burdens or by civil incapacitations tend to beget habits of hypocrisy and meanness. Skip. We therefore declare that no person shall be compelled to frequent or to support any religious worship, place, or ministry. Skip, or otherwise suffer on account of such person's religious belief. Meaning we can't be prosecuted for claiming abandoned estates. Supported by the Constitution. Therefore, subsequently, if we get violated, guess what issue we raise in federal court? The federal question. Arguing the constitutionality of a person's act. Meaning, if we adverse possess a bunch of houses for all of us, and a bunch of stores so we can do business, right? And then the Providence Police, which is commercial enforcement, says right on the back of their cars, violate any one of us. Okay, well, we didn't have possession by law, according to the Rhode Island Superior Court, and the common law, and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, you're still threatening us, which is violating our right to due process. You're not recognizing our theocratic sovereignty. You're not recognizing us as a nation, which is a violation of international law. Oh, we're deceived. So instead of being afraid of what these Europeans might do to us, why don't we just be prepared for it? It's kind of like calling their bluff. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, do you really want to get into the ring with us? Or are you just faking it? Because if you pay attention to what these Europeans do, they constantly promote that fear propaganda. Always promoting it. There's a reason. They really don't want smoke. That's the reason.
But it's Superior Court.
Within their state, yeah, because that's their state government. That's what they agreed to. But we're not citizens of that. So we shouldn't be in those venues. Exactly. So I showed you Rhode Island Superior Court that they recognize adverse possession. I showed you within our religious text that Allah recognizes adverse possession. Who's supreme? Who's superior to Allah? And if you have a name, get out. And who is Allah? Man. Every single one of us. And then I showed you where the supreme law of the colony of Rhode Island recognized adverse possession. Now, I'll show you where we have the rights to adverse possession dealing with the rights of indigenous people, as well as there is another document somewhere that exists. is the Organization of American States, which just simply means the United States. They recognize that so-called black people are indigenous to the Americas. I had it. No. The Organization of American States Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Article 1. I had it all set up for everyone. Oh, here it is, found it, excuse me. So I'll go over this first. Now, I did a lecture in Delaware dealing with the Olmecs, how the Olmecs are one of the oldest civilizations here in America. When you simply Google search Olmec heads, you see they got big noses and big lips, just like every one of us in this room. The same facial features that these Europeans tell us to hate, these ancient Americans have. Which is proof that we've been here. Which means we're at least indigenous. The word indigenous being an adjective describing what we are, not who we are. And since these stone heads are at least 2,000 years old, we're at least aboriginal. Aboriginal meaning from the original, being an adjective. So again, it's describing what we are, not who we are. So we're aboriginal and indigenous Moors. Word Moor being the noun identifying who we are. So we're from the original and we never left. And we're Moors. So aboriginal means from the original. Indigenous means you never left. And then Moor would be the people that you came from, the original people. Right? So in this declaration of the Organization of American States, which when you look up here, you see some of those American states. Haiti, Mexico, Cuba, Colombia, excuse me, Jamaica, Cuba, Guatemala, and then I put Ghana up there because we have more that's from Ghana. Representing. Right? These people agree to this. Section 1, indigenous people. Definition. In this declaration, indigenous people are those who embody historical continuity with societies which existed prior to the conquest and settlement of the territory by Europeans. That historical continuity can include the facial features of those Olmecs. Because they've been here prior to Europeans. As well as peoples brought involuntarily to the New World and freed themselves and cultures from which they've been torn. Meaning who? So-called black people, right? Because they think they were brought involuntarily to the New World, right? So that this is saying that those American people, well, that's not all the flags, but those Americans agreed. They agreed to this. Yeah, flex this shirt for the brand.
You can see it on my hair.
Those American people agreed that the Moors and the so-called blacks, who are really Moors, are aboriginal and indigenous to North, South, Central America, and all of the islands. Meaning that BS story that all these so-called Afro-Latinos or shipwrecked Africans is a lie. Because when we look at the Olmecs, we've been here. So again, this is substantiating our claim to adverse possession and our right of claim. Since our ancestors have been here, we have the right to claim. Right? So this is setting the scene that so-called blacks are indigenous. Tracking? Now the United Nations, so this is just the Western Hemisphere. This is everywhere. The United Nations said that indigenous people have the right to, let's just review some of this. Let's just read Article 10. Indigenous people shall not be forcibly removed from their lands or territories. Doesn't that stop gentrification? Doesn't that stop these Europeans from claiming eminent domain over our houses? Which is gentrification? I'm not even reading it. Let's read.
What's eminent domain?
Eminent domain is where the state says you have to leave. Because the state, the larger is greater than the small. So if the people say a highway right here is going to benefit the whole state, well well, then you gotta move out the last house.
Because that here in Rhode Island, they built 95, they may or may not compensate you.
May
So,
or may not.
they
I
will-
thought they're
yeah,
supposed
hold on.
to.
They're supposed to.
Wait. Before we get to this, yes, they're supposed to. Let me clarify that, because you can't just throw statements out there, right? Because it's, all right. So,
Sorry.
they're supposed to compensate you per the Constitution, right? But dealing with their wards, blacks and Indians, they don't have to. Christian Black Code 1724. They don't have to. Right? As an example, there was a so-called, my cousin was dating a woman whose father's friend was so-called Indian. Narragansett, so-called Indian, was dealing with their joint memorandum of understanding. They waived all their rights to claim anything. The state offered this so-called Indian finance to move because they're trying to build something. The Indian said, no, this is my land. They said, all right, eminent domain, leave, and then pay him crap. Because the Indians agreed to be subject, wards to, under the chattel property of the United States and every single European colony. That's what they agreed to.
Mama.
And since states can't enter into treaties, that's why they have a memo instead of a treaty. A joint memorandum, joint meaning multiple parties agreed. Memo, I'm reminding you that you agreed. Memorandum of understanding. Understanding. And then in that memorandum, what does it say? Laws of Rhode Island will be applicable on these reservations.
And the word random is.
And then what do these dirty ass Indians do? They signed an agreement. And then proof of that is when the Europeans kicked down their doors on their reservation and said, you ain't paying taxes. And then they went to court. It was all over the news. So, continuing. Article 15 of the Rights of Indigenous People, which so-called black people are indigenous people, once they claim their nationality. Indigenous people shall have the right to the dignity and diversity. Huh? Oh, sorry. I'll do that again. I'll try to have the same pizzazz. Indigenous people have the right to the dignity and diversity, I'm surprised, diversity of their traditions, histories, and aspirations, which shall be appropriately reflected in the education and public information. Hence, the University of Rhode Island revealed that article that Moors, well, Muslims been here. You got a peek? Clause 2 of Article 15 states, as in the state of Rhode Island, meaning these Europeans, shall take effective measures in consultation and cooperation with indigenous peoples concerned to combat prejudice and eliminate discrimination and to promote tolerance, understanding, and good relations among indigenous peoples and their segments of society. The reason why this works for Indians is because the Indians are organized.
Organization.
That's the only reason why. Article 18. Indigenous people have the right to participate in decision-making in matters which would affect their rights through representatives chosen by them. Meaning, if we got 1,000 Moors in a so-called city of Providence, that means we have the right to have a councilman on city council that we elect. Hence, the prophet said, elect Anderson. Yeah, the prophet, the Moors in Chicago had, remember his name, yeah, they had a councilman in Chicago. And dirty Moors are saying, well, that means we have the right to vote within their system. That's not what it is. We voted amongst ourselves to have an indigenous person represent us in City Hall. That's what that was. But they won't tell you the difference because they're incompetent. You got a question? Someone had a question. Someone had a question.
No.
Right. In accordance with their own procedures, meaning we get to vote whoever according to however we want to vote. Right? as well as to maintain and develop their own indigenous decision-making institutions, meaning our own home. Hence the Moors of America.
So total jurisdiction belongs to.
Yeah. Hence, Grand Chiefs, the chairman, have the power to create and enforce law. Prophet, genius, right? Huge. My Donald Trump impersonation. Number 19. States shall consult and cooperate in good faith with the indigenous peoples concerned through their own representatives, institutions, in order to obtain their free, prior, and informed consent before adopting and implementing legislative or administrative measures that may affect them. Meaning, we go to City Hall, we tell the mayor, yo, tell the province police or commercial enforcement to stay off our land. Don't even patrol our areas. We got our own sheriffs that we elected that uphold peace, the treaty, and the Constitution. And if you do come in our areas, you better be unarmed. If you are armed, we'll recognize that as an act of hostility, right. And now you're waging war on people. But we have to have communities in order to say that. Our people have to be informed in order to say that. We have to be organized in order to say that. We have to elect people in order to say that. Because remember, when the prophet established the Moor Science Temple of America, in doing so, the structure of it is a theocratic constitutional monarch. Keyword constitutional, meaning the people still have the right to vote. Hence, when he established the Supreme Grand Council, he said, I've chosen 7 men and women, tried and true, to be selected by you. The monarch chose them, presented them to the people, and the people voted. Hence, theocratic constitutional monarch.
Break that down.
But a monarchy does not mean this one person has absolute power. It's still constitutional, meaning it's still a republic, meaning it's still for the public's benefit. So any so-called Grand Chief, any so-called Supreme Grand Chief, any so-called Sheikh, any so-called Mufti, any so-called whatever position, any so-called Vizier, acting on their own interest, treasonous. Anything that benefits them and not the people. Oh, you had a question. So break down something. Break down the theocratic constitutional monarch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Theo. Like the
Gotcha.
He's ready. He's gonna stretch first, then grow.
The actual word.
Yeah, the breakdown of what is it what the sorry.
I knew that. Let me get the dictionary. Oh, class participation. Who would like to look up theocratic? Well, 2 people look up theocratic. You get those stickers. You get those stickers. Everyone else, no stickers. That's a theocratic constitutional monarch.
Theocratic. It is a adjective. Theocratic. Theocratic. Right? Of relating to or being a theocracy. Which then becomes an adverb. Theocrat.
This one says, government by a god regarded as the ruling power or priests or officials claiming divine sanction.
Read that again, please.
Government by a god regarded as the ruling power or by priests or officials claiming divine sanction.
What?
Two.
What dictionary is that, please?
This is the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language, New Common Edition.
Can you read that one more time, please?
Government by a god regarded as the ruling power or by priests or officials claiming divine sanction. And then it says, the second definition, a state so governed.
So, didn't the prophet say his power and authority was given to him from Allah, right? That would be God, right? Allah is arm, leg, arm, head, right? Which is man, right?
Right.
So he was the ruler of our nation at that time. He said, I'm a prophet and a general. Essentially, he was the sultan of the Moorish nation at that time. He was the prince, the king, and emperor of the Moorish nation at that time. And the prophet of the Moorish nation at that time. Remember, when he was on the scene, all powers of the Moorish Science Temple of America, he had power over everything. Hence the monarchy. Right? His power is derived from God himself as the invoker. Not just because he said so, because he had proven himself. Because who else was doing what he did? So his actions tell you that he is who he is. Right? Can someone read monarchy, please? Or monarch?
Monkey wrench. No, kidding. 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 Just popped in. Oh, okay. Monarch. Monarch. It's a noun. Right? Monarch. That's how you say it in that way. From Greek, monarchos. From mon plus archos. Arch. A person who reigns over a kingdom or empire as a sovereign ruler. B, a constitutional king or queen. Definition 2. One that holds permanent position or power.
One that holds power. Mono means one. Arch or ocracy means power. So he was the sole power. He was the sole person that had power within the government, right? Then there were also elections. Right? So the prophet was the sole person within rulership that no one else's claim trumped his. Right? But his oath was to the Constitution, to the people. You know what I'm saying? You understand that dynamic? Is that confusing at all? Is that clear?
Say it again.
The prophet being the theocratic monarch, saying his power is derived from Allah, being the one person whose no one else's word trumped his, had dominion over everything. Right?
That makes sense.
His oath, the principles that he stood by, what held him accountable was the Constitution. Because the Constitution is based on divine law, nature's law. etc. You know what I'm saying? So he wasn't acting for his benefit. It was always for the benefit of the people. That's how a ruler is supposed to act. That's why he put it in the Quran.
What is that? Yeah.
Declaration on Human Rights, Article 21.
Next
This?
is that an NF? Yeah, right.
This?
Yeah,
MDNT, letter netter. Before there were vowels, it was no vowels. So this consonants. Yeah. Monarch. So essentially, in each temple, the Grand Sheik is the monarch of that state.
What is that?
And the people are supposed to hold his or her actions to the Constitution. And the people have the right to impeach said person from that seat of trusteeship. Based on their merit, based on their actions, based on their words, works, and deeds. Not just because. And the Europeans have to recognize that. And when you do research on the prophet, you'll see where he was invited to the inauguration of one of the governors, military officials, everyone was shaking his hand, meaning he was recognized. Why was he recognized, Jamal? Probably because he had 3,000 Moors in Chicago, and they were all listening to him and raising him to sovereign power, saying, yes, we're following the prophet. Are we comprehending that? Without the people, any person claiming any position of power is nothing. Absolutely nothing. So don't let them try to play you. Because without you, they ain't shit. That same principle applies to me. Same principle applies to prophet. How you a prophet with no people? How you a prophet with no people that you're helping? Then when you read the Quran, the prophet is an office. If it's an office, they have an obligation. An obligation is a debt. A debt to who? The people that they keep safe. So, back to this. Back to adverse claim. Back to the rights of indigenous people. Do we need a break? Do we need a break? Yes or no? Yes?
Yes.
Let's vote.
Yes, aye.
Hands up for the break. Give them up, please. So I count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 for yes. Raise your hands for no break. 1, 2. So we're taking a break.
Guys have it.
See?
Unanimous.
See? Theocratic constitutional monarch right there.
What's unanimous? The ayes have it.
5 minutes. You got 2:45.
Trying to get more.
1:05.
That's what I got. Across the brand.
Somebody.
This one.
So off that highway.
So anyway, I did look up
That
down
right
there.
there. Nothing.
Can you remind me?
And then I was
Going on to-
Make you feel like you can knock someone out. Hold on, let me put my bracelet on before we start.
Did you say loud?
All right, so continuing with the rights of indigenous people. We already established that the Europeans have to recognize our elected representatives. But like we talked about the prophet in Chicago, part of the reason why they recognized him was because he had a following of 3,000 men, women, and children who had their own stores and were able to make their own finances to support whatever enterprises they desired to enter into. Right? So Article 20 of the Rights of Indigenous People says indigenous people have the right to maintain and develop their political, economic, and social systems or institutions to be secure in the enjoyment of their own means of substance and development, and to engage freely in all their traditional and other economic activities. Meaning, you don't need to be licensed to conduct business on your own homeland. And they have to recognize it, which in the previous article it said states shall recognize the elected representatives, or said indigenous people. Clause 2 of Article 20 says indigenous peoples deprived of their means of substance, meaning we shut down your business because you don't have a license, and development are entitled to just and fair redress, whether that be compensation or the return of that business. If they took it away from you or whatever, or evicted you or whatever it is, you have the right to go back, continue your business. Article 21. Indigenous people have the right, without discrimination, to the improvement of their economic and social conditions, including, amongst other things, in areas of education, employment, vocational training, and retraining, meaning taught how to do a job, which we shouldn't have to pay to be taught how to do a job. These companies that already know how to do so are obligated to help us. One way to get that legislation enforced within the Colony of Rhode Island, because every state has a business department. If we speak to the General Assembly of the state of Rhode Island, we can have them write within their own legislation that every business, every construction business, every plumbing business, every whatever business that does some type of hands-on job must have a vocational training program free for all indigenous people, specifically Moors. Meaning, if you want to know low voltage, if you want to know plumbing, if you want to know construction, you should go to any one of these corporations doing business on our land and say, teach us how to do this for free. Why? Because they're on our homeland. What is that? A form of reparations. Instead of them giving us money, we have no skills, so we just spend all the money and then we're asked out. Why not learn skills? So I'll read that again. Article 21 of the Rights of Indigenous People, which we just went over, the Organization of American States, where they recognize so-called black people as indigenous people, who say that they're Moors. Indigenous people have the right without discrimination to the improvement of their economic and social conditions, including, amongst other things, in areas of education, employment, vocational training and retraining, housing, sanitation, health, and social security. States shall take effective measures and, where appropriate, special measures to ensure continuing improvement of their economic and social conditions. Particular attention shall be paid to the rights and special needs of indigenous elders, women, youth, children, and persons with disabilities. They just said these European colonies are supposed to be funding us. And the United States agreed to this under the presidential administration of Barack Obama. So why are we not enforcing this against the several states of the Union? Well, one, because a lot of our people don't know that they're indigenous. And two, we have sellouts among us who aren't teaching our people that they're indigenous. And three, we just didn't know. Well, now you know. So what are we going to do to start implementing these things? I'm not saying answer me now. I'm just saying go home and think about that. And I'll read it again, just to be clear. Indigenous people have the right, without discrimination, to the improvement of their economic and social conditions, including, amongst other things, in the areas of education, meaning not just this, the areas of education, employment, vocational training and retraining, housing, sanitation, health, and social security. This is the obligation of the states. As an example, this is the obligation of Gina Raimondo. And who's the mayor? Georgie Lorza. And the city council. And the General Assembly. And Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea. And the Treasury Peter Kilmartin, or maybe that's the Attorney General, whatever. These people, these human beings. This is their responsibility. Since they can just print fiat at will, they just give us stacks of it so we can start fixing things up. This is not real money, because it's paper and ink. This is their responsibility. So as we're going through this, don't think, we're asked out because we need finances, we broke. They're supposed to fund us. Like that conversation we just had, you saying you need funding. Well, they're supposed to be funding us. Not through no grants. They're not granting anything to us. It's reparations, that's what it is, right? So this is their obligation. Please keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. This is their obligation. I'm being redundant for a reason. States, as in the state of Rhode Island, as an example, state of Massachusetts, state of California, and please forgive me for doing this, I know you're not stupid, but I have to do this. States shall take effective measures, and where appropriate, special measures, to ensure continuing improvement of their economic and social conditions. Would anyone care to give me an example of the state taking effective measures and where appropriate special measures to ensure our economic conditions increase? I can give you some examples. Let's say the Moors are trying to adverse possess some abandoned property for our children and our sisters and our mothers to get them off of Section 8 and out of the projects. And we don't have any training to fix up these houses. Well, then the state of Rhode Island can send their best contractors to come fix those houses up for us. And then we just go in and then live there. That's an example. Another example is taking our children out of their schools, giving us the tools necessary to have our own schools, to teach our people our own laws and history, and then again sending those same contractors to come work at our schools to teach our people the trade, the youth. so that they can grow up knowing how to do these things. That's another way that they can ensure our economic conditions increase as a people, yes.
Training their systems on our laws and customs, the treaty,
Yes.
the Constitution,
Yes, exactly.
so that they know how to better handle us.
Exactly. Not handle us. Deal with us
Yeah.
as a nation. As an example, training their policy enforcers that whenever you see a Moor with this on and a Moorish ID and the Moorish plates, don't talk to them unless they committed a crime. Then you can talk to them. Other than that, don't even say hi to them. Nod and keep pushing. There's no reason for any of these policy enforcers to be speaking to any one of us at all, unless we committed a crime. Which, in order for a crime to exist, there must be an injured party. So, tail light out, that's not a crime. No plates, that's not a crime. Wrong plates, that's not a crime. Speeding, that's not a crime. Running a red light, that's not a crime. Now, obviously, if the person's swerving, you pull them over. If they're driving reckless, pull them over. If they're on the curb, pull them over. Other than that, don't talk to us. Anyone else have any other ideas on how these people can ensure that our economic and social conditions increase as a people?
Allowing us to farm.
Allowing us to farm, yes. Now, speaking of that, there's a program called the Southside Community Land Trust in Providence, Rhode Island. But they target so-called minorities, blacks, and veterans. So in short, they're teaching indigenous people how to farm, and then after that program, those indigenous people can buy land from them or rent land from them. I'm just telling you this because this is something I went through that program when I thought I was black and shit. And it told me, they told me how to farm, and they also paid me. The only issue is they ask for social, and they ask for all that BS. So if we communicate with these, the Europeans who are actually interested in helping us, talk to them and educate them on our rights, then we can continue to operate through those programs allodially, meaning not giving any socials and not giving any of that BS that will apply to us. So these programs exist to an extent. We just have to be aware of them and know how to approach these situations. And to avoid us having to approach these situations on an individual level, let's just elect public officials amongst ourselves to speak to them, to let them know how things are going to be ran. To avoid any individual arguments with any organization. Article 24. Now this is very special to me because a lot of our people get arrested for so-called marijuana possession, all that BS, all these so-called drug charges, which when we look up the definition of drug in Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, it says any plant, mineral, or animal used to make medicine. Which, the coca plant is a medicinal plant. Alcohol is medicinal, can be medicinal. Let me say that. The coca plant can be used for medicine. Alcohol can be used for medicine. Cannabis can be used for medicine. So simply being in possession of these things is not a crime. But that's what they're locking our people up for, drug possession. This is what the United States agreed to when Barack Obama signed the Rights of Indigenous People. Number 24. Indigenous people have the right to their traditional medicines and to maintain their health practices, including the conservation of their vital medicinal plants, animals, and minerals. So if you got pounds of cannabis in your car, you have the right to do so. And you don't get a license from the state of Rhode Island, the state of Massachusetts, the state of Connecticut, the state of California, the state of Colorado, none of that. Because it says you have the right to do so, and the license is permission. Then they can't subsequently bring you to court for possession thereof. Hence, when Barack Obama was in office, he did this program where he released, I don't know the amount of prisoners, but people who were held in prison for charges like that, they were released. Mm-hmm. Obama did that. So all these people saying Obama didn't do nothing for black people, you're right. He did something for Moors. So shut up. Following? Again, A right which is free and open to all is not subject to a license, permission, or tax. So since it says indigenous people have the right to maintain and preserve all medicinal plants, animals, and minerals, that means you do not need a license. Meaning any policy enforcer from Providence, whatever city, can't pull you over and say, why you got pounds of cannabis in your car with no license? Well, I'm an indigenous person, I have the right to have these plants. Oh, you got a problem? See my grand sheet. Oh, you got more problems? All right, let's go to federal court. I'll sue you. Oh, you got even more problems? All right, let's go to international court amongst the United Nations and then go on stage and say what you're saying to me right now on camera for the whole world to see. Yes.
Are issue and problems in the same category?
Issues and problems. Not every issue is a problem.
That reminds me of when people say that's a personal issue.
It's also a personal problem. So, right, as an example, to the world, well, whenever like the president of the United States goes on camera, it seems like everything's fine. Why? Because the Moors aren't saying shit. That's why. So if we start saying shit in court, like, hey, these people are violating us. Yo, these people are violating us. Then whenever that president goes out to the public, he's not all walking like this anymore. Because now you got a domestic problem. Not domestic terrorism. It's the people nationalizing. The people claiming our land back, taking it out of their hands. Say, oh yeah, by the way, this is our share from Europe. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Oh yeah, by the way, according to this document, it says you're obligated to fund us.
That would make them lose their credibility with other nations.
Of course.
And how you making promises with land and people that you don't
Of course.
oversee?
Which in the Constitution says good faith and credit shall be given to the United States. Well, if the indigenous people are complaining that you're violating them, then you don't got no good faith and no good credit. So let's start telling on them. Well, what do you mean by telling on them, Jamal? Suing them in court. That's what I mean. But wait a minute. That's unprecedented. No, it's not. Malcolm X, who's really Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, who had the support of several African countries, was about to bring the United States to court for human rights violations. Can you fix the flag, please? I'll say that again. Malcolm X, who's really Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, meaning he knew he was a Moor, was going to bring the United States government to international court for human rights violations and genocide. That's why they killed him. He also had the support of several African countries. That's why he was murdered. So, I think these people are afraid of us bringing them to court. So guess what we should do? Bring them to court. Because last time I checked, the prophet said, it doesn't matter what you hear or see, but you'll sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your prophet and your movement. So what you afraid of death for? Because again, last time I checked when I read the Quran, it said, death is no enemy of man. It's just when your job is done, Allah cuts the cords and you go home. Peace. Right? Warriors death and blah, 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 Valhalla and blah, blah, blah. Honor, courage, commitment. Something like that. Continuing Article 24, Clause 2. Indigenous individuals have the right, an equal right to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. Now let me stop right there real quick. Every time they're saying, you owe this, you owe that. You're 10 to 4 code. You're late in this. You're late in that. You owe this. You owe that. They're causing mental harm. Called mental anguish, which, according to law, you can file a tort claim for that. A tort does not have to be physical damage. It can be mental damage. So all of our people who are homeless, because these Europeans are saying you got to blah, 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 blah to live, we can sue them for causing mental damage to our people. It's called genocide. In short, the Moors have the right to bring the United States to court on several counts of genocide. But we have to know that. And remember, this is connected to adverse possession. Because if they don't allow us to claim houses for the benefit of our people, they're committing genocide. If they don't help us in doing that, they're violating the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. They're violating our human rights, which is genocide. You tracking? Don't be afraid of these people. Only a person who is insecure has to use fear to influence people. Hence the bully in school, insecure person, probably getting beat up at home by his dad. So these Europeans know we outnumber them. And once the Moors of North America connect with the Moors of Central America, who connect with the Moors of South America, who connect with the Moors of the islands, these Europeans are in a world of hurt. That's why they're using fear to guide our people. Don't do that. You want to go Guantanamo Bay. Whoa. Oh, they're killing our people at every traffic stop. Did we get pulled over on the way from Delaware? Did you die?
No.
Oh.
Did they let you go?
They didn't even hold you. There was nothing to let go.
They didn't touch me, they didn't grab me.
No license, no social security, not a citizen?
Didn't they pull me over on camera?
Yes.
Did I get shot? Oh. You sure? Because last time I checked, when you listen to some of these people, they're killing our brothers left and right. Well, am I not your brother then? Is that what you're saying? They didn't kill me. And I'm not saying, I'm not welcoming you, I'm just saying, don't let people put fear into your heart and in your mind because it's a cancer. The United States democracy needs that. It feeds off our fear. Because if we're fearful, we're stagnant. Meaning we ain't going nowhere. Meaning they just feed off of us. Because we're dealing with physics, we're dealing with energy, we're dealing with potential energy and energy in motion. They don't want our energy in motion. They want the potential energy so they can feed off it. It's energy transfer. They're vampires.
It doesn't matter what you see or hear.
Exactly. Again, do your best to not let fear dictate your life. I'm not saying don't be afraid. It's human instinct to be afraid. You should always preserve your life. That's the good part of the ego. Self-preservation. Preserve your life. But don't let fear dictate what you do. Because then you're just giving up. And you're letting them win yet again. And I don't know how else to substantiate that. Don't let fear dictate your life. But don't also overcompensate and do things that are stupid. Find the balance within yourself. I can't tell you what that balance is because I'm not you. But as an example, I'll give you an example. I claimed 9.8 acres of land and I got the Secretary of State's stamp on it. And I did a video on it. Several videos actually. Europeans threatened to do things to me if I showed up on the land again. And at the time, it was me by myself. So I had this battle in my mind. I was like, Jamal, are you seriously gonna let these Europeans punk you? You ain't afraid of them, right? That's what I was thinking. I'm not afraid of these people. I'll prove to them that I'm not afraid of them by showing back up on the land, continuing to farm it for my people, right? That would have been a stupid idea because they threatened to arrest me, right? Which means they would have kidnapped me, held me for an undisclosed amount of time, and I wouldn't have been here to be able to teach you this information. So which one is more important? Showing them that I'm not afraid and put myself in a stupid situation, or seeing the end game, stepping back and realizing that this is our land anyway, all I gotta do is remind the people, and then they're gone. So for me, that was the battle of either proving to these people that I'm not afraid, or using logic and self-preservation. So find that within yourselves. And again, these people ain't nothing. Continuing. It also says that the state shall take necessary steps with a view to achieving progressively the full realization of this right, dealing with attainable standard of physical and mental health. Article 25. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinctive spiritual relationship with their traditionally owned or otherwise occupied adverse possession and used lands, territories, waters, and coastal seas and other resources, and to uphold their responsibilities to future generations in this regard, talking about trust law. Should I read that again? I'll read it again. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinctive spiritual relationship with their traditionally owned or otherwise occupied adverse possession and used lands, territories, waters, and coastal seas and other resources, and to uphold their responsibilities to future generations in this regard. Meaning we ain't claiming it for us. Just like the prophet said, it's for the children and yet unborn. So that they have something that we didn't. So that they start off on a higher pinnacle than we did. So that when we return to this plane for another lesson, we're straight for the work that we put in our past lives. Article 26. Indigenous people have the right to the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned, occupied, adverse possession, or otherwise used or acquired adverse possession. Clause 2 of Article 26. Indigenous people have the right to own adverse possession, which is acquiring the title by adverse possession, ownership. Use, adverse use. Develop and control the lands, territories, and resources that they possess, adverse possession, by reason of traditional ownership, hereditaments, inheritance, or other traditional occupation or use, adverse possession, as well as those which they have acquired, have otherwise acquired, adverse possession. Clause 3. State shall give legal recognition and protection to these lands, territories, and resources. Meaning the state of Rhode Island, City of Providence, City of Cranston, City of Pawtucket, all these cities shall give legal recognition and protection to these lands that we have adversely possessed. Is that clear to everyone? Are we sure? So if these Europeans violate us, what are they doing? They're violating what? This. Which means what? They're liable in court, right? Because Obama signed this, right? And then even if he didn't, it's still all right. So they're still liable, aren't they? Because it's still on our land, right? Which means what? We have to sue them, right? Article 28. Article 27. States shall establish and implement in conjunction with indigenous peoples concerned a fair, independent, impartial, open, and transparent process, giving due recognition to indigenous peoples' laws, meaning they have to recognize what we say, traditions, customs, and land tenure systems, to recognize and adjudicate the rights of indigenous peoples pertaining to their lands, territories, and resources, including those which were traditionally owned or otherwise occupied or used adverse possession. Meaning the state has to recognize when we adverse possess something. According to this, the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Rhode Island, and that Superior Court case that I showed you earlier. Peace. What time is this one? Indigenous people shall have the right to participate in this process. Meaning, whatever committee that they establish to help us fix our social and economic and religious and spiritual problems, we have the right to be part of that. Meaning, they can't speak for us. We speak for ourselves. And we can't just say, we're Aboriginal, Indigenous people, and we speak for ourselves. No one speaks for us. We can't just say that and then not go to City Hall and start making demands. and not go to City Hall, be part of these councils and these subcommittees dealing with our people. Because when you do research on the General Assembly, there is a, what's it called? This is black thing for blacks and Latinos dealing with voting and electing their officials. They got black programs all day. They got Latino programs all day. Where are the national programs? Well, the nationals ain't speaking up. That's why they don't have them. I just gave you the answer. Meaning, we have to speak up. Meaning, I can't be the only one knowing stuff. Every single one of you have to know something. So that in any event, no, Allah forbid, my job is done and I get to leave. One of you has to pick up the mantle. Or, educated heir, so that when they're an adult, they're groomed into the position of knowing what they need to do. In short, every single one of us has a responsibility. Every single one of us. Every single one. That's why the prophet said, just because you were born here, that'll make you a citizen. To be a citizen, you have to participate in your free national government. You have to participate in civics, civic instruction, educating your people, protecting your people, being involved in political affairs of your people. Meaning going to City Hall and speaking to these Europeans. Not just saying, well, we're indigenous and we got this on lock because we sent you a document, we sent you a writ, and now we control you. That means nothing. If we control these people via a writ, why would we just beat up building? Right? Now, I'm saying this for a reason because Moors have made statements like, we sent them a writ, so we're in control now. Or we sent them a piece of paper, so now we got things on lock. If that was true, why do I still have family members who are homeless? Why do I have family members who are still in Section 8? Why do I have to still pay some European to do anything? If you got stuff on lock. You know what I'm saying? We all have this responsibility. All of us. Every single one of us. Not just me. Not just other people who know some stuff. Every single one of us. We have to know this. Because if you start questioning, well, how come the Moors don't do this? How come the Moors don't have that? How come the Moors don't have a government? How come the Moors don't have land? Well, you're a Moor, and what have you done to help create that? And I'll wait until you tell me what you've done. And then I'll wait even more until you show me a record of the things that you've tried. Then maybe we can have a conversation about what the Moors do and don't do. Tracking? Any questions? You have a question?
Yeah, are you asking for us to do that?
To do what?
To show you a record of what we've tried?
No, you don't gotta show me anything.
No,
You can show
you
the
just speak
body.
Metaphorically.
Let's just say yes, metaphorically.
Okay. Because I got my record right
Great.
here in my.
Great. Show the people.
Trust and believe. Right now?
All right, after.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can do it right now. I don't care if you want.
No, I want to interrupt you, but
All right.
cool. Trust me, I can do 16 things well at the same time. So I
Great.
hear every word that you say, even though I look like I'm asleep and on my conference call.
Got you. All right. That's great. Where was I? Article 28? Article 28, indigenous people have the right to redress by means that can include restitution, or when this is not possible, just, fair, and equitable compensation for the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned or otherwise occupied or used, and which have been confiscated, taken, occupied, used, or damaged without their free, prior, and informed consent. This is why the prophet said the Europeans owe you, and they're going to owe you in compounding interest, and they cannot pay all that debt. It's also why he said enforce the Constitution. These are constitutional principles. Also, Article 37. Indigenous people have the right to the recognition, observance, and enforcement of treaties. Say that one more time, just in case you didn't hear the word treaty. Indigenous people have the right to the recognition, observance, and enforcement of treaties, as in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco and the United States, as an example, and the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo between the Republic of the United States of Mexico and the Republic of the United States. Not any so-called line-ass Indian treaties, not those. Those are fake. Or agreements and other constructive arrangements concluded with states or their successors, and to have states honor and respect such treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements. Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as diminishing or eliminating the rights of indigenous peoples contained in treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements. Read the rest on your own. Any questions? None? Any questions on adverse possession?
Would like say you don't have any documents proving that you're a Moor as far as like, an ID?
Okay, how about this? I already know where you're going with this. Well, I may not, but I'm going to interject. If you get to the book by Todd Street Bay on rvbaypublications.com, it's the treaty book. In this book, you'll see where they talk about United States citizenship in Morocco. It says, all persons who cannot prove allegiance or citizenship to a foreign country here in Morocco are ipso facto, meaning by mere fact alone, and ipso jure, meaning by mere operation of law, Moorish subjects. Meaning you have to prove that you're not a Moor. Go ahead and rephrase that question. You get what I'm saying?
But if you're practicing somebody ignorant, they're not gonna know
Right.
that. So sue them. Sue them. Oh, you're violating the law, and ignorance of the law is no excuse because you're on my homeland? That's like me going into your house, slapping the shit out of you, and then saying, well, I didn't know I couldn't do that. Right? Because in order for you to go to China, right, you want to be a Chinese citizen, but you got to go to Chinese school and learn their laws and customs and their language to an extent, right? So if you're here in Morocco, on my homeland, you might want to learn my law. Or unwarranted slaps start happening. And you start getting slapped left, right, you don't know what's going on. Like, why are these people slapping this shit out of me? Right.
What was that thing by Congress?
I think I have it. Hold on, let me check. It's on the RGBA publications. It's a 10 book.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know where that
So let me
was.
think about that. Janelle.
This book right here. Good?
Yeah.
This books are cheap. I need to
These books are cheap. RBBaypublications.com.
Yeah.
Don't touch it.
Love that.
I know, my daddy told he said you can look with your eyes, you don't have to touch it.
That's right.
I used to get so mad, so mad.
It's
Or
on,
how does it feel to want? That was my favorite.
Let's read it.
Okay, great.
No. I just said, I can't read. I can't. Definitely. Like citizenship, expatriation.
Yeah, actually, that's what that is. What
Where is it? Oh, here it is. It's on page 100. It says citizenship of the United States, expatriation, page 459, chapter 5, temporary provisions, and the name of the country right there, Morocco. It says, Mr. Philip charged the affairs to Root Secretary of State, August 3rd, 1906. There are strictly speaking no Moroccan laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The fundamental laws of this non-Christian country are based entirely upon the Islamic code, no part of which treats the subject of citizenship. There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries, and the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. Well, as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions, this is not the desire of the department to call for a report upon such lines. I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing, which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. Number one, citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. Meaning, you don't gotta prove that you're Moor. Just like when a Chinese person says, I'm Chinese, do you say prove it? Hell no, you don't. Number 2 and 3. Moorish subjects lost their nationality by becoming naturalized, 14th Amendment, in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. Then when you get a passport, what does that mean? You declare allegiance to who? The United States, which means you're claiming protection from who? The United States. So you nationalize, give yourself a Moorish ID to prove that you're born. You don't have a European ID that says state of Rhode Island on it, which means you have allegiance to the United States, which means you're protected by them. Does that answer your question? That's dealing with the issues, 3 prohibitions of law. Status. Who are you? If your ID says Moorish, or your documents say Moorish, the chances are you're what? Moorish. If your ID says state of Rhode Island, your passport says U.S. citizen, regardless of if it's a free national name on it or not, what are you a citizen of? Oh.
With your free national name, tying it all up.
Oh.
You wouldn't need
Which is
nothing
the
to
opposite
prove.
of what you wanted to do.
Your blood's on, that's it. Then we look up the definition of Moor in the dictionary. It says what? Any dark-skinned person. Which I'm pretty sure if you go out in the sun for a little bit longer, you'll be darker than most Europeans. Actually, all Europeans, especially in the sun.
It's already darker than most all Europeans.
Everyone in this room is darker than most Europeans. You included. Remember, American is the various copper-toned natives. Various shades of brown. Where are you from? Oh, then you're Moorish.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different looking Cape Verdeans.
Yep.
Yeah, but
All now.
and there's a
Yeah,
thing too.
you're Cape Verdean? He's Cape Verdean. He's way darker than you. Are you going to doubt his Cape Verdeanness? Wait a minute.
Even if you're a super light-skinned so-called Latino, you are still considered a mixed Moor, and you can pledge your allegiance to the Europeans, or you can still pledge your allegiance to the Moors. It's up to you and what you want to claim.
Yep.
So
now, let's support that claim. Look up the honorable nation of Haiti. Look up their constitution. Look up the honorable nation of Cuba. Look up their constitution. Look up the honorable nation of Colombia. Look up their constitution. Look for nationality. It will say in those constitutions, you are recognized as a national if your mother or father is a national of said country. Mother or father. Mother or father, which is honoring what? Your mother and your father. Which the prophet said to honor who? Your mothers and your fathers. Okay. They still came for you. My mother came before me, so she's my forefather. My father came before me, so he's my forefather.
I'm just doing the thing that you do. You're right, but Forefather.
Thank you for correcting me.
You're very welcome.
Because we have to correct each other. If we don't, then we're letting each other fail. So again, don't believe this is a power stripper theory.
Oh.
Don't believe that we're saying blah, 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 whatever we just said. Look at those constitutions of the different nations. And then the prophets say, take your place amongst the affairs of men. So in their constitution, it says we recognize mother and father. We might want to start doing the same thing. Because when you study Moorish history, you study just what's happening now in the military. Ask any of your military friends who've been overseas, they go out in town, they do adult activities with the locals, and then they leave. And there's a lot of children that get abandoned. Same thing that the Moors were doing when we were, doing what we were doing back in the day. We still do it today. We're going to foreign countries. We're trafficking a bunch of Europeans as chattel, slaves, Slavic, as our property. We would mate with them. Then we would not recognize the Moorish ancestry of that child that we just created, us being Moors. That child would be like, yo, why are you abandoning me? Then they would wage war with us. If you don't believe me, look up the show Empire. Look at what happened with the Lion family. How, whatever the guy's name is, Lucius? Lucius Lion mated with a European woman, had a child who was mixed. Lucius abandoned that woman, didn't recognize the heirship of the heir. He grew up and did what? Destroyed his empire. What happened to the Moors? The Moors created the European, mated with them, had mixed Moors, didn't recognize their descendability, and what happened to our empire?
Some of those tribes came out from Moors.
What happened to our empire? Oh, it fell. Because what? We honor not the principles of our foremothers and forefathers and didn't recognize our own heirs that we created. Because we're dumb. And now any Moors presently saying to do the same thing, what are they? Dumb. Because if history shows this is how you fell, right? And you're peeping history, right? Okay, we did that, that, and that. Okay, so let's not do that, right? But then you go ahead and do that. That means you're not intelligent, correct? Because intelligence would say, don't do that. Not wise, right? It's not wise, meaning it's not intelligent, right? Is that or is that not Moorish history that we did that? We mated with Europeans. We had mixed children. Then we did not recognize their heritability because we mixed with them. So now we're putting our unjust deeds on this child. So now you got to suffer because I'm an idiot. And don't just think it was males just doing it. It was males and females. Just like today. You see so-called black men with so-called white women. You see so-called black women with so-called white men. It's the same thing.
Are they following the matriarch at that current moment?
What do you mean?
They follow the title of Slavics?
No, it doesn't matter if it was a matriarch or a patriarch. It's the actions of the people. You know what I'm saying? Because a matriarch can exist with a male head of state. A patriarch can exist with a female head of state. It's all about how that energy is managed. Like you and I, we have both masculine and feminine energy, but we would be called males. I still have estrogen. I'm supposed to be a walking balance of that. Same thing with females. It's just you get toxic masculinity and toxic femininity when it's like, only girls can wear pink, only boys can wear blue. And then we're stuck to these extremes. Then it becomes toxic. Because life is about balance. Yeah, every single, I'm going to say something military. Every swing and tassel has both. In fact, every male in the womb before he grew a penis, he had a clitoris. Every single one.
I didn't know that.
That's why it fell out. It fell out. That's why it's tight.
The difference between us men and the woman is that we talk about the estrogen. That's what make the men them a woman.
Yeah, different levels of estrogen.
Not us as men.
Yeah.
Because they got the
Yeah,
woman got more estrogen
Yeah.
than men.
Women have, you're supposed to have more estrogen. If you don't,
But
we can take stuff for that, just
But-
like a man.
Yes.
when you take more estrogen or more testosterone, if you take more testosterone, your estrogen levels will rise too for balance. Because life is about what? Balance.
Yeah.
That's why when you see like bodybuilders and they're doing stuff, they get titties and stuff like that. because their estrogen levels are also rising. Most bodybuilders, when they do work out, they'll take a estrogen suppressant if they're male to make sure that doesn't happen. Well, life is about balance. That's why that happens.
Mine is
For the
unbalanced
growth
because
of the
I'm
Balance.
very, 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 very gender specific. To me, a man needs to be this way, and even though I'm bossy, it's because I'm older now and I'm getting away with it. But a woman needs to be this way. Like
So
it's my old
exclusive.
lady thing. That's how I put it. I'm
Yeah,
an
but you're
old
still-
lady now, and I can say whatever I want to,
But
and
that's not.
have an old lady pass. But a man has to be this way.
You'll be
and a
back on this
woman
planet.
has-
You're coming back to this planet.
Oh, no, I am not. Oh, honey, no, I'm not.
Okay.
That's for me to decide, and I've already decided that. I already told you I'm ready to go now.
Okay.
Gone.
Okay.
I
So-
am not coming back here.
Life is about balance. Right? And then the Quran talks about how man tarries on this planet for many ages until his lessons are all learned up.
Yeah, this is the it for me. I'm dead serious. Why do you think I'm still here? If my ego was up, I wouldn't have came back through these doors. I'm like, God, I don't care what happens, the universe, I don't care what happens. Give me my lesson so I can check this off and go on to the next one, because I ain't repeating this stuff. That ain't gonna happen. I don't get embarrassed. You can't bully me. I just shut down. I'm inside of here. Need to do me. And that's it, and that's all. I've already been through that. I lived in a log cabin for 13 years by myself in my 20s. So shunning me doesn't work. And I've been through every type of, one last thing. I'm sorry, I'm on a little rampage. I've been through the last place I had to learn a lesson, the dude and his girlfriend, which turned out to be a dude in a dress, that I didn't find out for 10 years, which it doesn't matter, but she fought me so hard that I actually had to call her on the phone and thank her. I said, you have prepared me for every situation that I have to deal with another female, even though you're a dude, in life. Because I mean, the girl wore me out.
Everyone has rights, but just
Well, no, she was bad. So I'm just saying all that to say I'm not easily, you can't maneuver me. I have to maneuver myself.
Yeah.
Christina done been through it all places. I'm the OG. Not
Message.
Alright, so my point was,
Sorry.
don't be sorry. My point was, let's not make the same mistakes that our ancestors did. Right? All these people talk about healing generational trauma and ancestral trauma and blah, 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 blah. Just change your ways. That is it. Actually, in the Bible, one second, let me read this. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You should have kept the books over here.
I told him that from the beginning, it's better on campus.
Don't worry about where I put the bookshelf.
Yes, you would.
Oh, no,
You
we
can
need
hear
to
the
be
class
out
letter in
here.
The Holy Bible, right?
Hold on.
You're
The King James.
This is, I'm pretty sure it is the King James version. Yep, King James version.
Ow.
We're adults again. Swear. Where is it? I want to go. Which one's Isaiah?
Zeke.
Probably the other one. Oh yeah. So this is Ezekiel. This is dealing with the fact that the child does not take on the karmic debt or the sin of the mother or father. It's basically telling you that no one can die for your sins. So dealing with ancestral trauma, we're dealing with the habits that we're repeating of our ancestors. It's not their trauma, it's our continued practice of those sinful actions. Because again, no one can pay for your sins. Yes.
Okay. Oh, but people, is it true that people can remember what you did to them before and you come across them in life again? Because I went to a place and I had horrible reception and I didn't know what the problem was. And one person, this lady darted at me and the other one restrained her. And finally they told me I did something a long time ago. And I'm like, if I can't remember our interactions from the last time we met, how is that my problem? So, but it's real. And then I found out some other stuff. But the whole point is, if they can remember and I can't remember what I did, it led me to why I'm living the way that I'm living now, because it made me feel guilty about my life. So my thing was, I've tried to give my life away and I'm not playing 10 times. Tried to give it to the International Jews for Christians with Rabbi Eckstein. I tried to give it to the Self-Realization Fellowship Lake Shrine. And then the lesson that I had at the last place, he just tried to take it. He said, you don't want it, I'll take it. I don't have no problem. But the whole point is, I felt guilty after that interaction, which made me feel like I don't deserve to have what I have. But since last night, the revelation is, I'm going back to my good life, and I'm sorry. If there's anything I can do to help them, I will help them. But apparently they don't want no help. They just want to be mad at me. That's a whole group of them. It's like 35 of them. So I don't know what I did, and I'm dead serious. But whatever I did, it was real, and it hurt those particular people. So it's real is what I'm saying. But I'm done feeling guilty. I'm going back to looking good, living in my place. I already went to escrow 3 days ago. I'm getting my stuff back. And if you don't like me, see, I wanted everybody to like me. Please like me. Please be my friend. I don't give a rat's ass if you're my friend or if you like me, because I'm doing what was given to me, and that's it. Okay. I've already tried it. It don't work.
All right, so regardless of if we know what our ancestors did or not, or what we did in the past life or not, like she said, we still have to deal with it. Right? So I'm going over this to show you that no one can pay for your sins. No one can die for your sins.
That's right.
None of that. And this is from the Bible. When these so-called priests saying Jesus died for your sins, they're lying to you. Again, this is Ezekiel 18, start off with 3. As I live, saith the Lord, ye shall not have occasion any more to use this proverb in Israel. Behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. Meaning the soul that committed the sin is the soul that will die, not someone else dying for you. Right? But if a man be just and do that which is lawful and right, and hath not eaten upon the mountains, neither hath lifted his eyes to the idols of the house of Israel, neither hath defiled his neighbor's wife, neither hath come near to a menstruous woman, and hath not oppressed any, but hath restored to the debtor his pledge, hath spoiled none by violence, hath given his bread to the hungry, and hath covered the naked with a garment. He hath not given forth upon usury, neither hath taken any increase, that hath withdrawn his hand from iniquity, hath executed true judgment between man and man, hath walked in my statutes, and hath kept my judgments, so deal truly, he is just. He shall surely live, saith the Lord. Meaning your actions dictate what type of karmic consequences you get. So if you deal with the people justly, the people will respect you. If you're slapping people left and right, no one's going to respect you. And then it talks about blah, 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 blah. If a father commits all the sins and the son doesn't do it, well, then only the father pays and the son doesn't. You know what I'm saying? That's how we can begin to cure our ancestral karma, our ancestral trauma, and our ancestral debts by not continuing those bad practices that our ancestors did. That's how. And of course, you can use different mediums like burning candles and giving offerings and stuff like that, but it's all in here. It's all in your intent. Your mind's what makes that cure.
So the sin of the parents is really just.
The sin of the parents
because sometimes
is us mimicking what they do.
It becomes that reality.
Yeah. So again, exactly. So whatever we see our parents doing, us as children, we're most likely going to follow their footsteps.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean their sin is being transferred to us. That means we're taking on our own sin. That's what that means. Yeah, exactly, habits. So in order to break that, you have to break it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the offerings that people may do. They're using those offerings as a vehicle to transmute that intent. Right here. Any questions? All right. Before we wrap it up, before we wrap it up, I want to talk about, again, this was all about adverse possession. Now, the sins of our ancestors led us with basically no ownership of any land. Our actions have to change that. Adverse possession. You see how by us doing that, we're breaking that ancestral curse of us not having anything by saying, oh yeah, this is ours now? That's what ends that. And please don't be fooled by people claiming to be metaphysicians, claiming to be spiritual doctors and whatever it is that they're claiming. They got some type of power that's going to cure whatever ancestors that you got. Do not be fooled. Retract. Great. And with that, let's say peace to all my viewers. Thank you all for tuning in. Adverse possession. Peace.